And on a base in Crimea, Ukrainian soldiers did something pretty incredible. They're standing up against the Russian forces who've moved in there, and they're doing it in a non-violent way. I want you to take a look at some video that was shot earlier. It's pretty astounding. Ukrainian troops who are unarmed, marching and carrying their flag, as well as the flag of a former Soviet, too, singing and marching right up down that road to go face to face with the Russian forces who are just down the way. You can see them all down that road. That could have been a very dangerous situation, but as they got closer, the Russian forces raised their guns. They even fired warning shots into the air, but you've got to check out the back and forth that went on between these two sides.
Америка с нами! Советский флаг. Вы стрелять будете? Пожалуйста, командир. Переговоры будут, не вопрос. Да, переговоры будут. Остановите толпу и пускай ведут себя. Всем стоять на месте. Вы специально провоцируете. Мы не провоцируем. Мы без оружия. Какая провокация? Взять самолет и стоит под охрану. Я говорю, стой. Я выполняю свой приказ. Я серьезно говорю. По ногам будут стрелять.
Just in case you're wondering what it looked like in a wider, view from the sky, apparently the numbers that were facing off against one another, 300 Ukrainian soldiers, and we're told that they were facing off against 16,000 Russian troops. Our Ben Wiedemann is in that area. He's live now on the phone to report on what this was like. Ben, take me there and walk me through how that did not escalate into something much, much worse, especially once those warning shots were fired.
Yes, Ashley, this really shows how dangerous this situation is when these two groups met. I mean, basically what you saw there was the commander of the base. His name is Yuli Mamchur, who was leading his men unarmed to the positions that were taken up by these other men in uniform, I think we can safely say Russian. And as they approached, the warning shots were fired up over their heads. Now what's interesting, the Ukrainians, who were unarmed, approached the Russians. They did not stop. They've marched forward, and one of those Russian soldiers, you can clearly hear him shout, "Stop or I'll be forced to shoot at your legs. I will shoot," he told them. And then there's this commander, Commander Mamchur. He said, "You're standing there with machine guns, and we're standing here without weapons." Then both sides, on the Russian side and on the Ukrainian side, their commanders told them to calm down, put your guns down, because their guns were raised and ready to fire at the Ukrainians. And the situation somewhat calmed down, but really this shows you what a hair trigger the situation is, certainly on this base of Belbek. Now, we were there later at that base, and you definitely felt that it was very close. And it's important to point out that at that base, it's not just soldiers, it's not just officers, it's also their families as well. So for them, it's a very tense time, a very dangerous time, because it's not just the Ukrainian forces that are in the firing line, potentially, it's their families as well. And it's a very good thing that there were no injuries, nobody was killed today, there was no bloodshed, because this just underscores how very tough, Ashley, the situation is here.
Ben, what's so remarkable I hate to say, for those of us over a certain age, we remember well when Ukraine was just another Soviet, and the Russians and the Ukrainians were Soviets. These were all parts of the USSR. And at one point in this confrontation, and you'll have to validate this, at least one of those Ukrainian soldiers was said to have said, "We are all brothers," and they were actually flying, or at least holding, not only the Ukrainian flag, but also one of the former Soviet flags as well. Was there any kind of sense between these two sets of forces that, yeah, in fact, we were, and maybe that feeling isn't so far gone, and perhaps that's what de-escalated this?
Well, I think we went through this tape very closely. They underscored that we're all soldiers, and the flag, the banner they were carrying, I believe, was the regimental banner from Soviet times, and I think they brought that specifically to make the point that there was a time when they were brothers in arms, that they were part of one political entity, and that may have been one of the points that stopped this thing from escalating much further. Ashley?
It's just a remarkable scene, again, for so many of us who look at Russia and see the vestiges of the old Soviet Union and wonder how different these people really could be, having been one for so long, and watching them point guns at one another, especially since those guns didn't go off in the way they could have. Ben Wiedemann, live for us. Some remarkable reporting from you as well. Thank you for that at Sevastopol for us.